I had always been careful. Careful with my appearance, careful with my habits, careful with my secrets. Most people thought of me as just Roy, a regular guy working a regular job in a mid-sized marketing firm, living an uneventful life with the occasional thrill of weekend parties or movie nights. But there was a side of me that no one really knew, not even my closest friends. A side that delighted in experimenting with makeup, in slipping into dresses and heels when I was alone in my apartment. It wasn't a fetish, nor a desperate escape. It was an expression, a part of me that I had nurtured quietly for years, hidden in the shadows of my everyday routine. Living alone had made it easier to explore. My tiny apartment became a sanctuary, a place where silk and lace mingled with the scent of vanilla and perfume, where I could practice flawless eyeliner strokes and perfect the art of contouring my cheeks without fear of interruption. I was meticulous in my preparations, organizing outfits, shoes, and accessories in neat, color-coded arrangements. It was my world, controlled and beautiful. But like all secret passions, the thrill of discovery, of someone stumbling upon it unexpectedly, was always simmering beneath the surface. Then Isabella entered my life. Isabella, bright, unpredictable, and magnetic. She had this effortless charm that drew people in, and I was no exception. From the first date, she had this uncanny ability to see layers beneath the surface, to notice subtle shifts in expression or tone that others ignored. I had fallen hard for her, not just because of her beauty, but because she made me feel understood in a way that no one else did. But with that intimacy came fear, the fear that my secret, my private world, would never survive exposure to someone as perceptive as her. Our apartment, small yet cozy, became a shared haven. We spent evenings cooking together, laughing over small mistakes, or lounging with movies and soft music. Yet, despite the closeness, I had never dared reveal the full extent of my cross-dressing to her. I had hinted at an interest in fashion, occasionally asked her opinion on outfits, or tested her reactions to subtle makeup, but nothing had prepared me for the moment that changed everything. It began on a rainy evening. Isabella and I had just returned from a late dinner, the city slicked with reflections of street lights dancing on wet pavement. She was unusually quiet, fidgeting with something in her bag, and I had sensed an excitement in her eyes, something mischievous that made my heart race. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small, gleaming tube of lipstick, a deep, bold red. "I found this today," she said, holding it up like a secret treasure. "It's special." I raised an eyebrow, curiosity mingling with suspicion. "Special how?" I asked, trying to mask my growing intrigue. She smiled, that teasing smile that made it impossible to think logically. "Magic," she whispered, almost conspiratorially. "It's a little experiment. Just trust me." My mind raced. Magic? Experiment? I laughed nervously, thinking it was one of her playful jokes. But something in her tone, serious yet excited, made me pause. "Okay, magic lipstick. Sure. Let's see what it does." She handed it to me, and the texture was unlike any lipstick I had ever felt, smooth, almost silky, cool against my fingertips. She guided me to the mirror, her fingers brushing against mine as she positioned the tube. "Just a swipe," she said softly, "and see what happens." I hesitated, my heart hammering. But I trusted her. Or at least, I wanted to. I swiped the lipstick across my lips, the color vivid, daring, and intoxicating. For a moment, nothing happened, and I laughed at the anticlimax. Isabella's grin widened. "Be patient," she said, almost whispering. Then, slowly, I felt a tingling sensation, warmth spreading from my lips to my cheeks, crawling down my neck. My body tingled in a strange, electric way, as if every nerve ending was suddenly alive. I stumbled slightly, gripping the edge of the counter, and looked up at my reflection. At first, I didn't recognize myself. My features had shifted subtly yet undeniably, softer, smoother, more delicate. My jawline rounded, my eyes seemed larger, more expressive, and my lips were fuller, irresistible, painted with a magic red that now seemed to glow faintly. I stumbled back in shock, heart pounding. Is this real?" I whispered. Isabella's eyes sparkled with mischief and delight. "It's real," she said simply, as if that explained everything. "I told you it was magic." I stared at myself, touching my face gently, afraid I would shatter the illusion if I moved too quickly. The reflection staring back was me, yet not me, a perfect, alluring version of myself, feminine and impossible to ignore. I felt a rush of emotions: fear, excitement, vulnerability, and a strange thrill that made my knees weak. What did you do?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. "Nothing I didn't promise," she said, stepping closer, her hand brushing against mine. "This is an experiment, Roy. I want to see everything. Your confidence, your grace, the side of you that only comes out when you feel beautiful." I realized then that my private world, my sanctuary of makeup, dresses, and high heels, was about to collide with reality in a way I had never anticipated. The lipstick wasn't just cosmetic, it was transformative. It forced me to confront my hidden desires, to embody them fully, to explore what it truly meant to be seen, to be beautiful, and to be vulnerable. And in that moment, with Isabella watching, smiling, and somehow guiding me, I understood that nothing would ever be the same. My life, my identity, and my relationship were about to enter uncharted territory. The thrill of transformation, the fear of exposure, and the intoxicating magic of the lipstick promised a journey I could never have imagined, a journey that would test my courage, my heart, and the very essence of who I was. Little did I know, that single swipe of lipstick would unravel more than just my appearance. It would change the way I saw myself, the way Isabella saw me, and the world around me, forever. The tingling sensation from the lipstick lingered, a subtle but undeniable reminder that nothing about that evening would be ordinary again. I staggered slightly, leaning on the edge of the counter for balance, as Isabella's eyes never left mine. She seemed almost delighted, a predator observing her prey, but gentler, playful rather than cruel. This is insane," I whispered, touching my transformed face again. The curves of my cheeks, the fullness of my lips, even the softening of my jawline. It was all real, not an illusion, not a trick of the light. I felt exposed, vulnerable, yet a rush of excitement surged through me. I had always craved this, the sensation of embodying my hidden side, but never imagined it would happen so suddenly, so magically. Isabella smiled, taking my hand in hers. "It's only the beginning," she said softly. "I want you to explore this. Let yourself become someone else for a little while." I swallowed hard, my pulse racing. The thrill of anticipation mingled with fear. Could I really do this? Could I step fully into this feminine version of myself, even just in private? My hands trembled slightly as I touched the delicate curve of my jaw, feeling the transformation not just visually but physically. My body seemed lighter, more responsive. Each movement carried a grace I had only ever practiced in front of mirrors. Isabella guided me to my bedroom. My apartment, once a sanctuary of solitude, now felt charged with possibility. She knelt in front of the drawer where I kept my carefully curated outfits, her fingers brushing over the silky fabrics. "Let's start simple," she said. "Pick something that makes you feel beautiful." I hesitated, but the magic, the lipstick, the thrill, it urged me forward. I pulled out a soft, flowing dress I had purchased months ago but had only ever worn in private. The thought of wearing it now, with Isabella watching, sent shivers down my spine. I stepped into the fabric, the silky material hugging my skin in all the right places. My reflection in the mirror was almost unrecognizable, yet undeniably me. Isabella adjusted my hair, brushing it over my shoulders and softening the line of my jaw. Her fingers lingered just a moment too long, sending a thrill through me I couldn't deny. "Look at yourself," she whispered. "Really look?" I did. And I felt a strange mixture of shame and exhilaration. Shame because this was a side of me I had hidden for years, exhilaration because it felt right. Complete. The mirror reflected not just my image, but my potential, my desires, my dual identity made tangible. "Now the heels," Isabella said, producing a pair of delicate, strappy pumps. My stomach fluttered as I slid my feet into them. Each step was a lesson in balance, in poise, in confidence. I teetered at first, the unfamiliar height throwing off my equilibrium, but Isabella's guiding hand steadied me. "That's it," she said softly. "Feel it. Own it." The transformation was more than physical. It was emotional, psychological. With every piece of clothing, every brushstroke of makeup, every careful step in heels, I felt layers of my old self peel away. I was becoming someone new, yet still intrinsically me. The thrill of danger, the risk that someone might discover me, the fear that Isabella might laugh or judge, intensified the experience. She handed me a small clutch and a delicate scarf. Accessories, she said with a wink. They complete the picture. I followed her guidance, arranging everything meticulously. Each touch, each adjustment, felt like a step deeper into this new world, a world where I could be seen, admired, and transformed. Then came the moment that truly cemented the suspense, the first time I had to leave the apartment dressed this way. Isabella's eyes sparkled with mischief. "We're going out," she said. My heart nearly stopped. Out? In public? Fully transformed? The thought was terrifying and intoxicating. I can't, I stammered, panic rising. "People, they'll see me." She laughed softly, brushing a lock of hair from my face. "Yes, they will. And that's the point. You're ready." The walk to the nearby cafe felt like stepping onto a stage. Every glance, every passing car, every pedestrian felt magnified. My pulse thundered in my ears. I kept my head high, shoulders back, heels clicking against the wet pavement. The wind brushed against my hair and the hem of my dress, and I felt a surge of power I had never experienced. At the cafe, I felt eyes on me, some curious, some admiring, some outright skeptical. Every stare was a test, a challenge to maintain composure, to sustain the illusion Isabella had helped me create. Inside, I shook with adrenaline, my hands clutching the clutch so tightly my knuckles whitened. Isabella sipped her coffee, calm and composed, her eyes dancing with amusement. "See? You can do this," she whispered. "You are beautiful. You are unstoppable." Her words, simple yet affirming, emboldened me. I smiled at a stranger who glanced my way, feeling the thrill of connection, the intoxicating power of transformation. Yet beneath the excitement, a shadow of fear lingered. How long before someone saw through the illusion? How long before my secret, my private world, became public? Back at the apartment, the suspense didn't end. Isabella's experiments continued, each one more daring than the last. She encouraged me to explore different styles, bold colors, elaborate hairstyles. Each change brought new sensations, new emotions, and new challenges. I learned to navigate the balance between excitement and exposure, pleasure and fear. But with every transformation, every brush of lipstick, I felt a growing tension, a sense that the magic, the thrill, could not last forever. The fear of discovery, of being caught, was a constant undercurrent, making each moment more intense, more addictive. The lipstick had opened a door, and once opened, there was no turning back. Weeks passed. I became more confident, more adept at navigating the duality of my life. Yet the suspense never faded. Each day brought new challenges, unexpected visitors, questions from friends, accidental glimpses and reflections. I learned to move with elegance, to speak with poise, to conceal and reveal just enough to maintain the illusion. The magic lipstick had changed everything. It had transformed not only my appearance but my very understanding of myself. I was no longer just Roy, the man with a secret passion. I was Roy, the transformed, the daring, the feminine version that Isabella had awakened. And while the thrill was intoxicating, the suspense was unrelenting. Every glance, every encounter, every whispered word held the potential to expose me, to unravel the delicate balance I had built. And yet, I couldn't stop. I wouldn't stop. The excitement, the thrill, the magic, it was addictive. Each step in heels, each application of makeup, each confident smile in public became a test of courage, a challenge to embrace the person I had always wanted to be. But deep down, I knew the climax was coming. I could feel it, like the tightening of a coil, the pulse of anticipation building with every passing day. Someone, was going to challenge this new identity, push me to the brink, and force me to confront the full consequences of the transformation. And when that moment came, I wasn't sure if I would crumble, or if I would rise, stronger, more beautiful, and more alive than I had ever been. It had been 3 weeks since the magic lipstick first transformed me. In that time, I had become fluent in the language of my altered self. Every step in heels, every tilt of the head, every subtle adjustment of my dress became instinctive. I moved through the world with an elegance and confidence I had never known, a dual existence that oscillated between Roy and this new, feminine persona. But with mastery came new challenges. The thrill of exposure, the fear of discovery, and the ever-present tension of secrecy had intensified. That evening, Isabella suggested something I had been dreading, a small dinner gathering at her friend's upscale apartment. "It'll be fun," she said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Think of it as a test. A test. My heart sank. This wasn't a private experiment anymore. This was public, social, a stage where anyone could see the transformation I had carefully honed in private. Panic and exhilaration clashed within me. I tried to protest. I don't know if I'm ready for this. What if someone recognizes me? She shook her head, laughing softly. You are ready, Roy. Or should I say, Alyssa? The name felt strange on my tongue, foreign yet thrilling. You'll see. Just be yourself. Or the other you. I spent the next hour preparing, each motion deliberate and meticulous. The dress, a soft, form-fitting navy blue, felt like a second skin. I brushed my hair until it gleamed, applied makeup with careful precision, and slid my feet into the sky-high heels that made me feel both graceful and dangerously vulnerable. The lipstick, my constant talisman, was applied last, the deep red a bold declaration of transformation. Isabella observed me with a mixture of pride and amusement. You're perfect, she said softly. Her hand brushed mine, a spark of contact that sent shivers down my spine. Remember, confidence is key. No hesitation. You belong here. We arrived at the apartment, the city lights reflecting off the glass facade like a constellation. The building smelled faintly of perfume and polished wood. Guests milled about, conversing in hushed tones, clinking glasses, the hum of social expectation wrapping around me like a tightening coil. My pulse raced as we entered. At first, no one seemed to notice me. Perfect. I floated through the room with Isabella at my side, greeting guests with practiced smiles and gentle nods. The confidence I had nurtured in private steadied me, but beneath it simmered a persistent anxiety. Each glance, each whisper felt amplified, each reflection in a mirror or polished surface a reminder of my dual identity. Then, it happened. A familiar voice cut through the din. Roy? Is that you? I froze. My stomach dropped. It was James, a co-worker, someone who had known me for years, someone who had never suspected a thing. Panic surged through me, a tidal wave of fear and adrenaline. My heels clicked more loudly than intended as I took a cautious step back. Isabella's hand tightened around mine, grounding me, but I could feel the heat of embarrassment climbing my neck. James blinked, clearly confused. His eyes darted over my figure, lingering on the curves, the dress, the lipstick. I don't recognize you, he stammered. Is this costume? No, Isabella interjected smoothly, a serene smile on her face. Alyssa is new here. Roy hasn't introduced her yet. Her tone was light, casual, but underneath, I sensed a controlled intensity. She had anticipated this moment, and somehow she was steering it, controlling it, protecting me even as my panic threatened to betray me. I tried to smile, a delicate, practiced curve of the lips. Hi. James, I said, my voice a pitched, feminine timbre I barely recognized as my own. My heart pounded against my ribs as I struggled to maintain composure, every muscle tense. The evening continued, a careful dance of conversation, small gestures, and strategic movement. Each interaction was a test, a high-wire act of social performance. I laughed, I sipped my drink, I nodded at compliments, all while internally counting the seconds until I could retreat, until I could shed the persona and return to the safety of Roy. But suspense has a way of creeping into the smallest cracks. As the night progressed, a sudden incident escalated everything. One of Isabella's friends, a tall, elegant woman named Claudia, moved too close. She adjusted her scarf, inadvertently brushing my shoulder, and laughed at a joke I barely heard. In that brief contact, the magic, so delicate and precise, shifted. The lipstick tingled, the warmth spreading unnaturally across my cheeks, my neck. I staggered slightly, gripping the edge of the table for support. Isabella's eyes met mine, sharp, warning. She guided me subtly, a hand on my back, directing me to a quieter corner. My pulse thundered in my ears. What was happening? The magic had never faltered before, never reacted like this. Then came the unexpected twist. The apartment's large windows reflected the city lights in a way that betrayed my secret. A guest had pointed out something in the reflection, a subtle change in posture, the curve of my silhouette. Heads turned. Eyes widened. Whispers began to circulate. Panic surged like wildfire. I stumbled backward, nearly tripping over my heels. Isabella's hand shot out, steadying me, her expression a mix of alarm and exhilaration.
"Stay calm," she whispered. "Control it. Own it." The physical tension was overwhelming.
My muscles trembled, my breath came in shallow gasps, every nerve ending alive with fear and anticipation. Emotionally, I teetered on the edge between exhilaration and humiliation. My secret life, the private joy I had cultivated, was teetering on exposure. And then the symbolic moment, a misstep that would become forever etched in my memory.
One of my heels caught the edge of a rug. I felt the world tilt as I lost balance.
The dress rode up slightly, revealing a glimpse of thigh I had never intended to show.
Gasps rippled through the crowd.
I froze, heart hammering, mortified. Isabella's hand shot out, gripping mine, steadying me, her eyes locking with mine.
"Breathe.
You are stronger than this moment," she murmured.
Time slowed.
Every detail was amplified. The hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, the eyes of strangers and acquaintances alike, the warmth of her hand, the slick surface of the floor beneath my heels. I realized then that this moment, terrifying as it was, defined everything I had become. The thrill of exposure, the fear, the exhilaration, it was all part of the transformation I had embraced. With Isabella's guidance, I regained composure, adjusting my posture, smoothing my dress, and forcing a laugh that sounded natural despite the pounding of my heart. The guests' attention gradually shifted away, drawn to other conversations, but the lesson had been seared into me. The line between Roy and Alyssa, between secrecy and exposure, between fear and exhilaration, had never been thinner. And just as I began to feel a fragile sense of control, the final twist arrived. A neighbor, someone from the building I had never met, entered the apartment unexpectedly. Her gaze swept across the room, landing directly on me. Recognition flashed in her eyes, not from years of friendship or work familiarity, but from something deeper, instinctual. The moment hung suspended, heavy with tension. Isabella's hand tightened on mine, and I realized the climax of this journey had arrived. Every step, every gesture, every choice had led to this precarious instant.
Would my secret unravel? Would the magic be exposed?
Would I falter under the weight of observation? Or would I rise, embracing the power, the thrill, the transformation I had worked so hard to inhabit? The air felt thick with tension, every heartbeat echoing like a drum in my chest. The neighbor's eyes hadn't wavered, they were fixed on me, scanning my face, my posture, my very presence. I froze, unable to move, every nerve screaming that this was the moment my carefully curated double life might shatter. Isabella's hand remained firmly on mine, a steadying anchor amidst the storm of panic. Her eyes met mine, and I saw that familiar mixture of pride, amusement, and something else, something dangerous, thrilling.
"Stay calm," she whispered.
"Trust me.
Trust yourself."
I nodded, though my pulse raced uncontrollably. Every instinct screamed to flee, to retreat into the safety of Roy, to shed the persona of Alyssa before someone, anyone, could see through the illusion.
But stepping back now felt impossible.
Too many eyes, too many expectations. The magic lipstick had already done its work, my transformation was undeniable. I was fully, exquisitely feminine, and there was no turning back. The neighbor took a cautious step forward, her gaze lingering a fraction too long. A flicker of recognition, or suspicion, passed over her face.
My stomach lurched. Was this it?
The exposure I had feared for weeks? I could feel the warmth of my cheeks, the tremor in my hands, the subtle quiver in my voice as I tried to speak. "Hi," I managed, my voice pitched delicately, a melody of confidence and fragility.
"I'm
Alyssa." Her eyes narrowed slightly, still searching, still evaluating. "Alyssa?" she repeated, her tone curious, probing, a knife hovering just above the surface of calm. I could have sworn Before she could finish, Isabella stepped smoothly between us, her presence a shield and a sword all at once. "She's new here," Isabella said, her voice light, controlled. "I don't think we've been properly introduced." The neighbor blinked, uncertain, but nodded slowly.
Yet the tension hadn't dissipated.
Every muscle in my body was taut, coiled like a spring ready to snap. I could feel my heart pounding in my ears, every breath shallow and rapid. The room seemed to shrink, the whispers and clinking glasses fading into a low hum, my focus narrowing to the neighbor's eyes, Isabella's hand on mine, and the delicate curve of my lips, still vibrant from the magical lipstick. Isabella leaned close, her lips brushing my ear. No matter what happens, remember this. You are beautiful.
You are strong. You are Alyssa.
Don't let fear control you. I swallowed hard, trying to internalize her words even as panic threatened to consume me. Every ounce of my being wanted to run, to vanish, to revert to Roy, to hide behind familiarity. But something deeper, something thrilling, urged me to stay, to face the scrutiny, to embrace the transformation that had become so intoxicating, so essential. The neighbor's gaze flicked again, faster this time, a subtle shift in expression that made my pulse spike. Recognition?
Doubt?
Curiosity?
I couldn't tell.
And then, almost imperceptibly, a small smirk tugged at the corner of her mouth, as if she knew more than she should.
Interesting, she murmured, almost to herself.
Very interesting.
I felt a shiver crawl down my spine.
Every instinct screamed danger, but the adrenaline coursing through me was addictive, heady, intoxicating. I had been tested before, yes, but never like this. Never in public, never with so many eyes, never with the possibility that my secret could unravel at any moment. Isabella's grip on my hand tightened, a subtle, grounding pressure.
Stay with me, she whispered.
Whatever happens, we'll handle it together. I nodded again, though my mind raced with possibilities.
What if she recognized me?
What if the whispers spread, the secrets leaked, the carefully constructed dual life collapsed in an instant? The fear was suffocating, yet strangely exhilarating. Every glance, every heartbeat, every faint stir of recognition was a reminder that I was living on the edge, balancing between two worlds.
And then, the final, suspenseful twist.
A faint chime from the apartment's security system echoed through the room.
The neighbor's eyes flicked toward the sound. My heart lurched.
Was it another unexpected guest?
A delivery? A warning? I couldn't tell.
Every second stretched, drawn out, unbearable, yet thrilling.
I realized in that moment that nothing would ever be the same.
The lipstick, the transformation, the thrill of becoming Alyssa, it had irrevocably altered my life. The line between Roy and Alyssa, between secrecy and revelation, between fear and exhilaration, had become irreversibly blurred. And as I stood there, frozen yet alive, every nerve on fire, I knew the story was far from over. Someone had seen something, maybe the neighbor, maybe someone else, and the next move, the next revelation, would determine everything.
Would my secret survive?
Would Isabella guide me safely through the storm, or would the exposure unravel everything I had worked for?
The room seemed to hold its breath along with me.
Time slowed to a crawl. Every whisper, every glance, every faint movement became amplified, charged with suspense. My reflection in a nearby mirror caught my eye, Alyssa staring back, eyes wide, lips glossy, heels clicking against the polished floor, a perfect image teetering on the brink of chaos. And then, just as I reached for Isabella's hand, a voice, soft, curious, dangerous, cut through the silence. I know who you really are.
My blood ran cold.
The camera of the audience would linger on my widened eyes, the subtle tremble of my hands, the taut line of Isabella's jaw, the small smirk curling on the neighbor's lips.
A pause.
Suspense suspended in the air, unresolved, delicious, terrifying. And then, cut.